Buying books and reading books are two entirely different hobbies. However, I appear to have taken this slightly too far. I have been book hauling a little too close to the sun. And now this stupid, wonky book trolley is overflowing, literally. This is my collection of books that I want to get around to reading in 2023. And when I made a video going through all of these over on my second channel, people had a lot to say. Some of these books, people were saying like, this is the best thing you're ever gonna read. You are gonna love this book. You are going to devour it. You are going to want to snip out the pages and wear them as an outfit. That's how good this book is. And then on the other hand, some people were saying about other books on my collection, or even the same books, you are gonna hate that book is gonna make you physically violent, you are going to want to snip out the pages of that book and use it as toilet paper. And nothing gets me more intrigued than that, right? So this got me thinking, what are the highest and lowest rated books that I own? And what if I read them? So I had to make my own spreadsheet because Goodreads is built like freaking MySpace. I swear that website has not been updated since like 2005. And they used to have a function where you could rank all of your books based on the average rating that they have. However, it's broken. It just kind of like shuffles them instead, like it's Spotify radio. And that is not very helpful for the purposes of this video because we're trying to find the highest and lowest rated. Every day that website stresses me out. I have genuinely had a Tamagotchi with a more advanced user interface than Goodreads. So anyway, I made my own database using Notion where I'm going to combine the average ratings of each of these books on both the Storygraph and Goodreads, which are both like book social media websites, and then we'll put them in order from best to worst, and I'm going to read the best and I'm going to read the worst for your viewing entertainment. And also my own curiosity, because when I see that something is badly rated, I'm like, now I have FOMO. I want to hate this thing too. Although sometimes I'm very pleasantly surprised, so we will see. But before we do that, let's do some predictions. For best books, I'm going to predict Young Mungo, and potentially really good actually. Okay, the books are falling. The Candy House has also been quite like critically acclaimed, so this could be on there too. Or potentially In the Dream House. I'm thinking that could be on the list too, because I've only heard great things. And then my final prediction for the highest rated book is going to be Lessons in Chemistry. People seem to love this book. Every bookstore I go into is stacked with copies of this. And also, one thing I discovered the other day, look at that. How cool is that? I feel like I want to read this on the train so I can trick people into thinking I'm very intelligent. That's right, just me and the periodic table, don't mind me. In terms of lowest rated, my prediction is Lapvona. I think this is a very contentious book, and so I think that could be up there. Aside from that, I don't know. Obviously, these are books that I bought, so generally, I kind of thought they sounded quite good. Yeah, I don't know really. I guess I'll make my spreadsheet and we'll find out, so I'll let you know when I know. Okay, so this is the list that I've created of every single book that is on my TBR and then the average rating. And then if we press sort up here, we can order them by the rating. So my predictions were actually surprisingly very accurate. Lessons in Chemistry, Young Mungo, and In the Dream House were all books I predicted might be at the #1 spot, and In the Dream House has taken it. 4.47 as an average rating is insane. That is so strong. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, we have Ordinary People, Treacle Walker, 3 Rooms, and then finally, right at the bottom, Insatiable. So I'm going to be reading Insatiable and In the Dream House. And we'll see if they are that drastically different and if they do belong at the top and at the bottom, respectively, on my TBR. Now, before I do that and jump into the reading, I just wanted to let you know that today's video is very, very kindly brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the first place you should go if you want to build a website or an online brand. They have really amazing templates so you can get started and just customize them without any coding experience required, which is music to my ears because I don't know anything about how to code. But with Squarespace, you can still make something that looks exactly how you want it to look. There are also great marketing tools. You can create a blog, which is a perfect way to interact with your audience a little bit more and show some behind the scenes, that kind of thing. So if all of this sounds really good to you, then you can head to squarespace.com for a free trial and test it all out. And then when you're ready to launch your snazzy new website, you can use the code jackedwards at squarespace.com/jackedwards to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Squarespace websites always look so professional and beautiful, so head over there now and get started. Why not? And while you do that, I'm gonna get started with reading these books. Okay, so I picked up the worst rated book first because then I thought, at least if this is bad, the only way is up. right? Well, literally anything would be up from this because we're in the fiery pits of hell. The bar right now is so low, it's winning a limbo contest. It's so low, Flo Rida wrote a song about it. This is horrid. This is Insatiable by Daisy Buchanan. And yes, I did Google whether this was her real name or whether she got the pen name from The Great Gatsby. And it is the latter. And a name from The Great Gatsby might be the only great thing going on here, honestly. Oh no. I am almost 100 pages in at this point, and I think it's ironic that it's called Insatiable because after like 20 pages, I had enough. I'm satiated. That's enough for me, thank you. But we will continue. And the cover is nice. Update, I'm now 150 pages in, and honestly at this point, I think this book might be overrated. And it's the lowest rated one. I am so serious about this. This book follows a girl called Violet who basically is just complaining about how horrible she thinks her life is until she meets a couple. Now this couple want her to join their company, to work with them, they take her out for dinner, and they also invite her to come and have sex with their obnoxious friends. So she goes to these sex parties and she basically oscillates between being like, I hate myself because I don't enjoy this, and I hate myself because I do enjoy this. But either way, she hates herself, and honestly at this point, I kind of hate her too. I'm also impressed by her because in these sex scenes, of which there are many, she regularly defies the laws of like human anatomy. It's very impressive. Like logistically, I'm really not sure how she does some of the things that she does. I'm both impressed and terrified by what this woman is capable of. She is a human contortionist. I'm not sure how a lot of these things are even possible, but I will continue reading and maybe find out. I'm sorry, I honestly can't get over how much I can't stand this character, and like that's a lot coming from me because normally I really don't mind a flawed or dislikable main character. I'm usually so fine with that, like normalize being morally reprehensible. That's okay. But this might be where I draw the line. She is whiny, she is so weirdly naive for someone who's meant to be in their late 20s, and she also has the biggest victim complex known to man. She's totally aimless, and maybe so is the book. But then, despite all of those things, the author makes every single other character desire her so utterly and completely. She's like, oh no, my boss hates me and I don't wash, so all my clothes smell bad, and I'm so fun at orgies, and people think I'm so pretty, and everyone keeps taking me for expensive dinners and on holiday. Like, oh god, I feel so bad for you. There's something just a bit uncomfortable about reading this, because it really feels like the author has just written down her personal fantasy and then published it. It's like your friend who's had a little bit too much to drink, and you're in the back of the Uber, and they're just like word vomiting. They will not stop talking, they will not shut up. And the time to shut up has passed. I'm feeling this weird like second-hand embarrassment reading this book, which is quite an unpleasant reader experience. Maybe some things just should stay in your head. Maybe we don't need to make art out of everything. I don't know. This is described as a love story for greedy girls. I think it's a love story for people with a lot of patience. Also, this book is just like sex scene, sex scene, sex scene, sex scene, and at a point it becomes kind of desensitizing. Like, I'm at the 225 page mark, and at this point, I'm skim reading parts of it. I'm sorry. Enough is enough. And honestly, at this point, it feels like the only person being satisfied here is the author who's writing it down. It's kind of like this weird literary exhibitionism. And at this point, the sex is so unspicy, it's lemon and herb. I have to tell you about this scene, which made me like so unnecessarily mad. So she goes to this one particular sex party, which is kind of like a dinner party too, and there's this buffet, and no one eats the food, no one eats the buffet, and everyone leaves after 15 minutes. Like, hello, if the sex is bad, at least enjoy some canapes. I'd at least be having a little bit of cheese on a stick, or you know, like when you get like bits of pineapple? Come on, at least a little Bellini, a pig in blankets. Hell, even a breadstick with some hummus on at this point, I would take. Please, this outraged me more than it should. At least enjoy the buffet. Also at this point, I genuinely believe that a breadstick would have more personality and charisma than this main character. Honestly, with this group of people, you would have to drag me kicking and screaming away from that buffet, because all the people in the room are so dull. Another thing I am noticing is that this book just picks up and drops huge ideas, like grief, eating disorders. It will just like kind of bring them up in passing and then never mention them again. Just a little sprinkling of each of these things makes them feel like they're just there for the sake of it, and that feels to me kind of like trauma dumping. So I think I'm gonna call it a day with this and pick it up again tomorrow, and I'll update you then. Hey, it's the next day and I'm so close to finishing this godforsaken book. It actually reminded me that there is, or at least used to be, an award for the worst sex writing in literature each year, and this book could win it just for the line, "He put his fingers to my lips, the ones on my face." Like, as if we needed to clarify. This book could win that award single-handedly, or single-fingeredly. Oh god, I'm losing my mind. Okay, thanks. I hated it. This book went absolutely nowhere. I think Drying Paint would watch this and get bored. Vanilla would taste this and go, god, that could use some more interesting flavoring. This is marketed as being about absolute filth and a frank, funny account of 21st century lust. Honestly, it's just like kind of vulgar for no reason. It's just like, I don't know who would find this hot. I'm sorry to say it, this was repetitive, really badly paced, quite an annoying narrative voice. I don't know, the whole thing just was kind of like a car crash that you can't look away from. And so I'm not surprised, unfortunately, that this ended up being the lowest rated book. But the good news is that hopefully the only way is up. So on to the next book. This is In the Dream House. We really had a kind of color theme going on here with the covers. Like, it's kind of giving Stabilo highlighters, but I'm okay with it. I like the color orange. And orange, you glad we're moving on to something new. I hated that joke as soon as I started making it. So the highest rated book on my physical TBR was this. This is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. It's described as exacting, exquisite, and exceeding all expectations by Roxane Gay. Now, I have quite high expectations because this is the highest ranked book on my whole reading list. And it's a memoir, but it's also very literary. So that sounds very up my street, and I'm gonna read it. Okay, all I've read so far is the prologue, but I folded down multiple pages already because the writing style is just gorgeous. I can't wait to go through this and underline some amazing quotes, but yeah, this is looking promising. I also think it might break my little heart. Let's see. May I? And the thrill of saying yes, yes, is like the pulsing of the tide over your face, and you would gladly drown that way. Oh my god, this is so beautiful! I cannot put this book down. Carmen Maria Machado has such a beautiful and breathtaking way with words. There's stunning imagery which really bring to life her anecdotes. And I've had the tingles multiple times. Whenever a book gives me that kind of like visceral response, I already know it's gonna be highly rated for me. This, wow. Honestly, the difference between these books is astounding. I wish I could read out every gorgeous quote to you because this book really speaks for itself. But let me read you this. She is always trying to win. You want to say to her, we cannot advance together if you are like this. Love cannot be won or lost. A relationship doesn't have a scoring system. We are partners, paired against the world. We cannot succeed if we are at odds with each other. Instead, you say, why don't you understand? Don't you understand? You do understand. Then what don't I understand? Most types of domestic abuse are completely legal. This writing, man. I know that some people are very against dog-earing the page, but when I'm reading, I like to dog-ear pages that I enjoy, and then I go back through and comb through it with a pencil and underline all of my favorite bits. And that kind of gives me a second chance to think about them and take them in and really dissect them once more. And this is definitely a book that I'm going to be thinking about for a very, very long time. I'm so close to finishing this entire thing, but I've just had a minor bump in the road in terms of my productivity because I'm staying at a friend's apartment and I just found this. This is... She's got this little remote control car, and I think that this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the day. Goodbye to anything I thought I was going to get done for the foreseeable future. Me driving away from my problems like... Listen, I would love to have been able to sit here and say something radical and revolutionary and been like, don't trust the reviews, they were wrong, these books were not the way that people said they were going to be, but the reviews were so right. The reviews got this spot on. In the Dream House is absolutely exquisite and stunning. It is candid and raw and tender, but at the same time, so lyrical. It's very poetic. Every single line is so clearly thought out. Not a word is wasted. And It really utilizes tropes from the horror genre. It's kind of like speculative horror. At a lot of points it's written in the second person, so it's written directly to you, and that makes this so immersive and vivid. This is such a vulnerable thing for this author to have written. It's fraught with the complexities and nuances of real people being in a real relationship where emotions are involved, where your lives are intertwined. She talks about domestic abuse in her relationship, which is often so hard to articulate, and yet she does so beautifully. This for me was like a 4.75, flirting with 5 stars. I think it's so close to the 5 stars. And then this, Insatiable, is like a 1.5 maybe out of 5 stars. So like, honestly, these were opposite ends of the spectrum. These were perfectly rated. The reviews made several points. They were correct. I can't argue with that. So these were the highest and lowest rated books on my physical TBR. I hope you enjoyed this little dive into these 2 books. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what the best and worst rated books on your TBR are. And if you're like me, that probably makes you want to read them even more. So thank you so much for watching the video. Love you loads, and I will catch you very, very soon. Bye-bye!